Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I'm going to be doing a quick questions and answers on here today. So if you have any questions you want to ask about your OCD, please put them in the bottom in the comments and I will respond to them now. So I'll be covering any of your questions relating to your OCD journey that you're something that you're stuck on that you want help with. There's a lot more videos coming to this channel now because we're doing loads and loads of videos every week. So there's around about 20 new videos being added every month. I'm sure you've seen some of the guys like Erica, Kirsty and Nick doing some really in detail videos on OCD, where they're looking at different sections. Erica's specializing in sort of sections relating to friends and family, really sort of seeing what things that they go through, because they are in the journey with us. But what we do is we often forget that they play their part in it, because we're so focused internally in our own OCD struggle. It's so easy to forget the journey that they're going through too. So Erica's going to be doing lots of videos on that. Nick's covering a lot of the history of OCD, so specifically how OCD was looked at in the past, how it was treated in the past, how far it's come today, why to be so grateful that we're at a time period where OCD is in a position now where we can get under it and get relief and get recovered. And in the past they didn't have those things available. Just the idea of an exposure would have been a game changer to them. They never even had the opportunity. So whenever you go to do an exposure, just think about how lucky you are to have the option to be able to do an exposure. They didn't even have the chance of that. So that's really, those are really key points that he's going to be drawing on from a sort of gratitude point of view, but pointing out all the timeline and all the different events that came to OCD being understood like it is today. And you've got Kirsty on there, who's going to be doing lots of videos on the different sections about OCD, similar to the things that I do on the channel, but also in relation to the books. She's doing sections talking about what we understand and what we learn from the books, because they're quite hard to interpret, a lot of the books at first. First time you do them, when you're reading them, it took me a few reads to get under them. So Kirsty's really having a look at the points that were really helpful to her in her journey, what things she took specifically from the books, and what she learned that was so different to other books that she'd read in the past on OCD, and why these were such a significant game changer. So she'll be covering that. Oliver's obviously on there doing, I'm not going to cover every single person who speaks on the channel, but just to give you a brief idea of what's going on there. Oliver's doing a lot on the sort of subtle fears that are attached around the core of our OCD fears. So he's looking at that, especially in relation to guilt, POCD, groinal responses, chronic anxiety relating to false memory and real event OCD. Is going to be a lot of videos on those topics. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. We're trying really hard to grow that channel into being sort of one of the main hubs for OCD free knowledge. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now I'm going to go through these questions that you guys have put in, so please just put them in the bottom here and I will respond to these now. I'm living with my husband who cheated many times. These thoughts haunt me. Well, why is it so terrifying if somebody cheated in the past? Is it because there'll be a reason there? Is it because you're scared that you won't have a connection with him? Is it scared that you feel that you need to leave him? It's probably grabbing on an ROCD element there around a slight real event and then exaggerating that well out of the box. So let's have a little look at that. Emotional contamination, I will be doing in a specific video on YouTube where we talk about associations with feelings, mental contaminations latched to certain things and events. I will be doing that. It's not a super common topic, but I do see it a fair bit, and I will be covering that in more detail because it needs its own specific video on the YouTube channel for that. In relation to the ROCD question, struggling with ROCD, I really suggest going onto the playlists on the YouTube channel and clicking on the ROCD section. There's heaps of videos in there covering most of the aspects for a lot of these questions on ROCD, so please check that out. Why is it so that whenever we listen to your videos, we work on recovery process, but after some time that we again start doing compulsions? Well, you've got to think of it, it's like an ingrained habit. Forget the word ingrained, it's just beliefs, but it's like a habit. If you had a bit of metal and I bent it down, to bend it up to the horizontal, I'd have to bend it past the horizontal. And what you're doing is you're expecting it to like flex straight back to the horizontal with one bend. It won't do that. You need to sort of repeatedly practice. The same as if you went to the gym. You couldn't go to the gym once and go, okay, I'm going to get the body I dream of in one go, in 10 minutes. It's not going to, in one workout or in 1 week's workout. It's not going to happen like that. You need to re-practice it, because just as much as you're practicing the new, you're practicing the old, going back and back and back over those things again and again, which is causing you to get stuck. So we need to go forwards and keep repeating the new forwards motion, and that then brings the relief. It's long-term practice and persistence. You know, it's not going to take forever, but we need to keep up a sort of routine to get moving with it. Schizophrenia theme of OCD we'll be covering in our webinar. If you check the Instagram stories, we've got a webinar on schizophrenia, psychosis fears, fear of going crazy, fear of losing it, fear of just snapping, all those kind of things. So yeah, if you check that, that webinar is a great one for you to come to. In relation to questions that say, can our OCD this, can OCD this, those are always reassurances, okay? So it's always, usually reassurances. So again, watching those videos is important because what you're doing is a lot of compulsions there. Is my OCD that? Is my OCD this? And it's checking. It's trying to get some kind of certainty, trying to get some kind of relief, some kind of peace by getting a certainty. That's what's going on there. Automatic rumination, there is another video on that, talking about mental compulsions and why they're automatic, because we're still scared. Until we bring down the fear, the automatic rumination continues. We need to get under the fear. If we don't get under the fear, that keeps it going. So common misconception by a lot of people is, oh, just leaving the thoughts there. Well, they're not going. Then they get frantically scared. They sort of panic because they're like, oh my God, I can't stop these mental compulsions. If I'm still doing them, I'm going to be stuck forever. But you won't be able to stop the automatic ones, which are the sort of the last ones to go until the fear comes down, usually. I did this mistake in my past and it might impact my future. You want to watch Oliver's video on guilt, false memory, real event OCD. I've done quite a few on the channel there. Very, very important, because they really get into the unconditional self-acceptance. Learning to see that when we get under it, when we accept ourselves unconditionally, it doesn't matter what happened in the past. The past is irrelevant, because that's only a problem when you've got conditional self-acceptance. You're latched to, if I had done ... then I am ruined and I am written off forever and ever. And that is what is fueling it. So you've got to look at that. You need to work on that. The books on the reading list are fantastic for that. Myth of Self-Esteem by Albert Ellis, the founder of CBT. How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything by Albert Ellis. Crucial reading for getting under that. I couldn't have recovered without that. And the majority of people with false memory and real event OCD won't be able to recover without some understanding of unconditional self-acceptance. So they're not internally torturing themselves and locked on in the background to that thing. That is something we work on extensively in the coaching to teach that, because it's tricky to see it. But with practice, we learn to change that. So we're not latched into the past, locked on in relation to a projected fear or version of a real event or real event. Doesn't matter in reality if it happened or not. It's just our perception of that event that's causing it to be locked. Do you have any helpful content around health OCD? Again, on the YouTube channel, lots and lots of videos there in relation to health fears. I did a lot of those in relation to physical anxiety and so on, and there's loads of posts if you scroll down this page on health OCD, tons of those. Health OCD was one of my main fears. and it was something that really used to trigger me and catch me. And so there's a lot of great content on that. How to find the compulsions when they're not obvious. People often get scared of that. Watch my video on fear of fear. Scared that what if I miss something and I stay stuck forever? You may miss some compulsions, but you'll get there over time. But it's a chasing of certainty. What if I miss one? What if there's one still going? So it tends to be fear of fear in there. Fear of death and health OCD. There's videos on the channel all about fear of death and many posts on this page. A good thing to do is scroll down this Instagram. You've got over nearly 3,000 posts on there from the last 2 to 3 years. So you can go through those and use that like a book to learn so much and broaden your knowledge of OCD. Please do that. People don't go far back enough, not from a compulsive way, but just to improve your knowledge. Yes, we do the group sessions as well as the one-to-one sessions directly with me. If you want to book an appointment and see availability, please email info@ocdrecovery.com. There is about a 3 to 4 month waiting list for the one-to-one, but cancellation slots do come available. In relation to the groups, they run every week, and you can usually get into those the same week. And we run webinars on specific topics. They do tend to get fully booked, but you can usually get in on them if you book early. What is real event OCD? Is it when you did something bad or when you just think it's bad? That sounds a bit compulsive to me, like you're trying to work it out. It's saying that even if you did anything in the past and it was in reality, it doesn't make a difference. The reason you're stuck is because of your perspective of it. For the details of unconditional self-acceptance, really good way to look at that is just to go onto YouTube and type in Albert Ellis, unconditional self-acceptance. And he's the founder of CBT, REBT, which formed into CBT. And he has some great videos on there on unconditional self-acceptance. Definitely give those a look. Some of my favorite of his videos on YouTube are the ones on unconditional self-acceptance, the dire need for love, another video of his, and one of the game-changing videos I found in my own recovery, Guilt and Shame by Albert Ellis, a 3-part YouTube video. Definitely worth watching all of those. At what point does watching vids and reading books become a compulsion? Well, if you're constantly doing it to get a feeling, to chase a feeling, then that's becoming compulsive. If you're doing it to improve your knowledge and learning and changing and learning things, then that's an understanding, that's a process you're going through that's helping you to learn more about OCD. In relation to that medication question by Brad, that sounds like a symptom of anxiety, depersonalization and derealization. Fear of not being able to get connection, which is at the core, one of the main culprits for a lot of OCD and anxiety suffering. Give meds a time to work. You will experience different symptoms. That is going to be part of the journey. Roll with them, ride with them, bring it for the ride. Don't try and fight them off. Don't try and get rid of them. Leave them there to be present. It's easy to panic straight away because OCD sufferers like their mind to be perfectly clear, perfectly at peace. I just need every part of my thinking to be all in place how I need it. That's part of the problem. Please repeat the name of the video. The videos by Albert Ellis to watch is Guilt and Shame, 3-part video on YouTube. The Dire Need for Love is another video, and Unconditional Self-Acceptance. But watch lots of different videos by Albert Ellis. It's so great for improving your knowledge. It was really a fundamental part of my own recovery. guys, I think that covers most of the things I wanted to cover on here. I wanted to sort of just come on here quickly, get a few of your questions and answers done, touch base with you guys, because I haven't been on, I've been a reasonable amount on Instagram Live, but obviously I've been very, very busy. So I have a lot of people that are helping out in the team with producing a lot of these videos, because I do a lot of one-to-one sessions and group sessions and so on. And so, yeah, I will be back on here doing more videos. I know a lot of people sending messages wanting me to cover lots of different topics, so I will be on here a lot more. And I try and get in these questions and answers for those of you who can't attend the group or the webinars or the one-to-one, so that you can still get all your questions answered, because that was something so frustrating in my own journey. I found it so annoying that I couldn't get sort of questions answered at different times. It was huge waiting lists to speak to somebody, and all these different things. It just felt very alone, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to about OCD at that time. So I didn't really, it wasn't like the community that we're sort of building now. And so these Instagram Lives are for that, so that wherever you are in the world, you can ask that. People come to our groups and webinars from all over the world. I like to give you guys a bit of an idea of sort of what happens behind the scenes. But, since I started building OCD recovery, I wanted to reach a large number of people around the world, regardless of if people could afford it to come in, and for people that could, so that people would still get help if they couldn't afford it, through Instagram Live, questions, social media, the Facebook group, which is one of the pretty much the fastest growing OCD group of its well, not just of its kind, of any of the groups, but it's also sort of a game changer, because it's focused on recovery and really about being positive, making change, no reassurance, all the things I didn't like when I was in forums when I first started out. But people, when I was in my own recovery journey, forums were a nightmare. They were just sort of breeding grounds for reassurance and negativity all day long. And so that's what I wanted to change. And then in relation to our webinars and group calls, people come from all over the world. And the same with the one-to-one coaching. I see people from all over the world. There's not many countries that we don't work with people from. It's really, targeting all those places, because otherwise, if you think having OCD is bad in the United States, Canada, or UK, for example, it's a hell of a lot harder if you're living in countries where they've got barely any understanding of it, and not sort of any setup for OCD. Loads of countries that like that. It would surprise you. Huge countries with 2 or 3 specialists on OCD that barely know much about OCD. So that's something we want to change. We're going to be doing a lot of work in the next couple of years in countries that do not have access to OCD help, because of language barriers, because of just limited resources in their countries. We'll be looking to change that in a big way. So we're currently doing a lot of work at the moment in looking at different countries which have very limited access and help with OCD, so that we can bring translated resources to them. I mean, I work with translators all the time for the one-to-one sessions and for the group calls, but we're going to be looking at doing much larger webinars to countries with translators that haven't got access to OCD help in that language. We'll be doing that, and that's the aim, to get going with that in the next 3 to 6 months. Because it's something that is really needed. I mean, you'd be blown away when you look at some of the countries. It's like literally the Middle Ages. It feels like. And when I have the team researching places and locations for us to start developing, helping with OCD and setting up a sort of structure to change that, it always blows my mind when I see what's going on. I mean, the world's in a changing time now anyway. We're seeing huge advances in so many areas of things that are going to change OCD in the future. But in relation to just not even having any advice in your own language in a country with millions and millions of people, it's ridiculous. So that's why we're going to be doing a lot of work. And like was just said there in the comments, it's not just in countries that you would imagine wouldn't have great OCD help, but it's in lots of Europe, just because it's not understood, and hence why we do what we do every day to change that. But that's just to sort of give you an update on what we're developing and things we're doing. We're doing a lot of work on the YouTube channel at the moment to build that into a big resource. and the same with the Facebook group, because those are the sort of the main ways that people can access free help. And then it will be translated services in different countries with larger webinars to reach more people. And then looking at sort of the future developments. So we don't rule out anything at this point to advance OCD, looking at other things and technologies to help improve OCD before we see a big leap maybe in mental health. Do I think in the future that perhaps Elon Musk will with his Neuralink, will be able to completely cure anxiety disorders? Very confident. Do I think it's going to happen in the next 10 to 20 years? I'm pretty confident. I've got a video on the YouTube channel about that, the future of OCD. So if you check that out, I talk about that in a big way. I'll also be doing videos about what I think is going to be the future in relation to psilocybin and other medication advances for OCD. I think that's going to be a really big changing area that's going to be happening in the next 5 to 10 years. I'll be doing talk about what we think is going to happen in that sort of realm at the moment, because there's so much advancing things happening, but they haven't broken through yet. But that's very much going to happen, and so that people can have an understanding of where that's going, because a lot of people are sort of, when they're stuck, they're sort of leaping for help left, right and centre. It's not about that. It's looking at these advances in science that are going to pave the way in the future, but not sort of like, I need a cure now, I need a new cure now, because you don't. You just need to learn to change your perspectives and not fuel the fear cycle, and you will get recovered. You don't need these scientific advancements at the moment. They're not needed for relief today, but we're going to be talking about those and going through those because they're interesting to understand the direction that OCD is going from our own angle, as a company that's trying to really change how OCD is dealt with and how people are helped around the world in the now. So trying to make change now. I think it's very important to look at what's going to happen. I think virtual reality is going to become very big. We were looking at getting into that about a year ago, and I still am, in doing very, very targeted exposures with virtual reality for all the different themes that are so often hard to target. For example, like with existential OCD, it will be very useful for that. Same with POCD and so on. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes with that, and we will be looking to be involved with that in how those exposures are made and to make them as sort of targeted to get in there as possible. So there will be more videos coming about the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes in changing those things in the future, which we'll be talking about as well, and how we're getting involved and what things we want to do to make a change there. Guys, I will see you on the next Instagram live, talking about different, probably question and answers again, and other topics and things that you've sent in. And keep sending your questions in. I'll cover them on here. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. All right, guys, see you later. Take it easy.